From the clear space of our own inner peace, our compassion can expand to include all of those caught in the tragic web of rage, aggressors and victims alike. True compassion is aroused by suffering of any sort, the suffering of every being. It is not tied to right or wrong, attachment or aversion. The work of peace is the spiritual path in itself, a means to develop the perfect qualities of mind that can be brought to bear in extreme suffering, urgent necessity, and even the moment of death. We who advocate for peace must not poison ourselves with anger, but regard with equanimity those who perpetuate violence, remaining constantly aware of our own state of mind. If we become angry in our efforts to work for peace, we must pull back and reestablish our compassionate perspective. Without anger, perhaps we will penetrate the terrible confusion that gives rise to violence and hellish suffering. So I think all of us are struggling with putting this war into perspective. It's so unnecessary, so much suffering. I myself at this moment, I'm doing work on the temple in Curitiba, setting bricks, mixing cement, and every brick is so heavy. Every spatula of cement takes so much work. And you look at how much work and how much weight is placed into a building, and you see that one person with a negative mind can push one button, and in 5 seconds, the whole building's gone. That takes years to build, thousands of hours, hundreds of thousands, millions, tens of millions of reais, dollars, destroyed in one button, one moment of anger. And it's like that with our virtue. In the text it says, decades, centuries, eons of virtue can be destroyed in one moment of anger. So probably all of us have felt anger watching these images of the war. Anger, revolt, maybe we've even cursed, maybe we've cried. And that's natural, that's human. But where the choice lies is how we react when those emotions come up. It says in the teachings that what arises, we don't have control over that. That's karmic seeds from the past that sooner or later do give rise to emotions, to thoughts. Where we have freedom is how we react to what arises. So the key is not to follow the anger, not to feed the anger. And it's such a natural reaction to feel angry when we see these things. But just by doing a simple contemplation, following simple logic, we can convince ourselves that it's completely counterproductive. Because the reason for this war is stupidity and anger, hatred and violence. So if we react with more stupidity, anger, hatred, and violence, we've just become one more cause of war, one more cause of destruction. So we must not let our minds give into that. We have to take our minds in a different direction. We have to take our minds to spiritual practice, to compassion. That's our mission. And we have to separate compassion from right and wrong, from hope and fear, from attachment and aversion. One has nothing to do with the others. If we base our compassion on what we think is right and wrong, left and right, black and white, our compassion is always going to be a half compassion, half aversion, half compassion, half ignorance. Our compassion has to blanket everything, has to bathe everything in the light of compassion. It's amazing to even imagine that because we're so trapped in our little box of thinking, right and wrong, good and bad, black and white. But the Buddhas say that if we were really able to see how things are, we would have even more compassion for the aggressors than the victims. The victims are purifying their karma. As, as hard to imagine as that is, that's what the Buddhas say. They're purifying their karma. The aggressors are planting the seeds for horrible, horrible karma in the future. In one way, they deserve more compassion than the actual victims. That's how we need to train our mind. That's how we need to try and see things. Don't be frustrated if this negative emotions arise. That's natural. You don't have to even fight that. It's going to come. If it's there, it's going to come. But you need presence of mind. You need mindfulness to be aware when it arises and liberate it or apply the antidote. Recite mantra. Cultivate love and compassion, equanimity. This is another great opportunity for us to transform and to transcend. So rarely people are able to grow when everything's wonderful. Usually we actually degenerate when everything's wonderful. When we really grow is when things are difficult. That's why the great masters say they prefer difficulties to good times, because they know that's where the growth lies. That's where the opportunity for growth is. And we won the lottery because these are difficult times. And there's a chance that things are going to get more difficult. This isn't called the Kali Yuga for no reason. So, how do we prepare? We wear the armor of our spiritual practice and our compassion, selflessness. This world is not meant to be the God realm. Everything works well, some sort of like Japan or Germany on steroids, where everything's efficient and on time, everybody's correct, everything's clean, everybody's polite. It's not meant to be that way. Samsara is not meant to be easy. Buddha never said samsara is easy. Samsara is difficult. Samsara is a mess. But that's what we need to grow. The more messy, the more difficult, the faster we grow, the closer we get to enlightenment.